A very good morning to all of you. It's a true pleasure to welcome all of you at Bonn University. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, members of parliament, ambassadors, distinguished professors, members of the armed forces, colleagues, friends, and above all our, I believe, 36 participants of the Strategic Foresight workshop, our promising leaders of the day after tomorrow. It is my great honor, and as I mentioned, also personal privilege, to welcome you to the opening of the Bonn Future Lab on Strategic Foresight 2025. This is the second major segment of this year's International Security Forum, which runs under the patronage of Minister Nathaniel Leminski. Over the past 9 years, the ISFB has grown into North Rhine-Westphalia's leading venue for strategic dialogue. During yesterday's main day, we had quite intense discussions about ruptures in transatlantic relations, European security affairs, digital dependencies, the upheavals in the Middle East and uncertain futures over there. And with the Bonn Future Lab, we created on purpose a forward-looking complement to this main day, which is more concerned with present developments. This format is a format where science, policy, and practice meet foresight. Science, policy, and practice. Our host region, I believe, embodies this very spirit very well. As Minister President Henrik Wüst recently put it, Europe's path into space, I want to add also, leads through North Rhine-Westphalia. With Cologne as home to the DLR, the European Astronaut Center, and Gov.com, and many other institutions, Bonn hosting the German Space Agency, UN SPIDER, and the first official seat of Germany's Space Ministry, Uedem-Kalka, serving as the location of the Bundeswehr Space Command, Euskirchen, housing the Fraunhofer Central Office for Space, Aachen with an ESA Business Incubation Center, and this is not even to mention all the space industry in our state, most recently, of course, the joint venture between Rheinmetall and ICI in Neuss. I believe NRW unites science, security, industry, and governance in space like few other regions in Europe. North Rhine-Westphalia, as Minister Leminski stated in his opening address yesterday, stands at the forefront of Europe's strategic presence in space, and the Bonn Future Lab reflects this momentum. It exists because we believe at CASSIS that understanding tomorrow is our responsibility today. We are honored that Federal Minister Dorothee Bär assumed the patronage of this year's Bonn Future Lab and will greet us via video later on. Her commitment to research, technology, and space policy embodies the link between innovation and foresight that we promote here in Bonn. Moreover, we are very grateful that North Rhine-Westphalia's Space Ambassador, Professor Dr. Reinhold Ewald, who alas cannot be with us here today because I believe he's in Brazil on a conference, is also supporting our event and will likewise provide a few words of greeting. Let me begin with a thought that captures both the vulnerability and the promise of our topic today. My dear colleague Kai-Uwe Schurgel, who will join us in about 2 days, observed that the global future will depend on the secure use of outer space for all policy areas. If space utilization as critical infrastructure is disrupted, our modern societies will break down. Space security is a key factor for survival. This captures, I believe, our strategic reality very well. Alas, this is the social scientist talking, despite its already great and further growing importance, space infrastructure still does not receive the political and scientific attention that it deserves. We rightly speak of energy, climate, or digital transformations, and we have offices there and thought papers in many institutions. But we often forget that the critical infrastructure above our heads, and also, of course, on the ground, that binds all of these transformations together lies in space. We at CASSIS are working with our partners to change that, and I believe this format today is one stone in this endeavor. Our 3 keynote speakers reflect the Futures Lab core logic: industry, security, and governance, the pillars of a sustainable usage of space resilience. Many thanks to you, Mr. Wachter. General Trout will join us later on. He just arrived from Spain, and Dr. Brown for being here today. And many thanks also to our esteemed panelists and chairs who will further discuss these and other important aspects of space. Our first keynote, Rise Up, the strategic necessity of advancing the European space economy, will be delivered by Mr. Matthias Wachter, the Managing Director of the New Space Initiative at the Federation of German Industries, and I believe most of you know Matthias very well. He has been a leading voice for Europe's private space sector, advocating for innovation, competitiveness, and cross-industry cooperation as the backbone of Europe's strategic autonomy. He will open today's conference by showing how a strong industrial ecosystem is crucial to Europe's sovereignty in space. Our second keynote, Space as an Indispensable Ecosystem for Sustaining Security, follows with Major Trout, head of the Bundeswehr Space Command in Uedem, and perhaps Germany's most senior military authority for space operations and situational awareness within NATO and the EU. General Trout exemplifies the growing integration of space into defense and deterrence, and he will explore how protecting our orbital infrastructure has become a central task of modern security. Welcome. Our third keynote, Ensuring Governance and Governmentability of Sustainable Space in an Age of Astropolitik, I like that word very much, will be delivered by Dr. Gerald Braun, Head of Division for Security and Special Assignment at the German Space Agency. He kindly steps in on behalf of Walter Pelzer, who had to attend another urgent meeting on a very short notice, and we are very grateful that Dr. Braun will be here with us later today. Dr. Braun brings unique insights from the operational heart of Germany's space security architecture, linking policy, technology, and governance in the management of one of Europe's most critical infrastructures, including space situational awareness, collision avoidance, and the responsible management of space debris as key elements of sustainable space governance. Together, these three perspectives and the following panels illustrate our mission to connect economic strength, strategic security, and responsible governance in shaping Europe's role in a sustainable and secure space environment. I believe that role matters very much. The global space economy is expected to reach almost 2 trillion within the next decade. Satellite constellations, launch systems, and commercial innovation already start to transform how we communicate, navigate, and perceive the world. But with progress comes dependency, and of course also vulnerability. Both the EU and the German space strategies are therefore clear. Europe must become more resilient, competitive, and sovereign in space affairs. And sovereign, let me emphasize this because this was one of the takeaways from yesterday, sovereignty does not necessarily mean autonomy. It means optionality. This is key, optionality. If we do not do this, we risk further marginalization. I believe nowhere is the strategic centrality of space clearer than in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. At the invasion's outset, Moscow nearly blinded Kiev. Only the rapid deployment of Starlink and other, often private, Western space systems preserved Ukraine's ability to endure. You see the role of private enterprises there very clearly. Since then, Russian strategists have openly discussed enhanced counter-space operations, and reportedly this even includes the usage of nuclear devices in orbit. This underlines, I believe, how vital and fragile space has become. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the strategic importance of space infrastructure for modern civilization is not widely known in the public. In a volume I co-edited last year with my dear colleague Antje Nötzold and two other colleagues, we used the term space blindness, Weltraumblindheit, to describe Europe's, and with this I mean both the public and many politicians, persistent tendency to treat space as peripheral, something that is there, a realm of engineers rather than strategists. And I believe this must change. Our societies depend on space for communication, navigation, finance, development, environment, defense, logistics. It is the invisible backbone of modern civilization, and that is a backbone we don't treat very well. It is crucial for achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and again, Bonn is a UN city. Yet, as I said to some of you in the beginning when we welcomed you, I did a little bit of research, and we have about 16,000, almost 16,000 professorships in German university concerned with the humanities, which means social science, law, economics, 16,000. We have the only representative for space law in this room, Professor Hobe. Thanks for being here. This is the only one. We have no chair for space security, space strategy, space economics, space business. I don't think that we can actually afford this. Hans Morgenthau advised us that power means the ability to shape the behavior and the thinking of others. How can we shape the thinking of our citizens if we do not invest in space, in academia? Whoever overlooks space overlooks the infrastructure of the future. Let me be clear, because I know that many of you are engineers. I believe that engineering excellence is the sine qua non of any space endeavor. Without it, there is no orbit, no launcher, no data. But technology alone is not enough. Lasting success demands astropolitical, legal, and economic reflection, both to respond appropriately to challenges in and around space, as well as to advance the public thinking about space as critical infrastructure. People need to understand that there's a security issue out there. In this regard, from a German perspective, our American and French friends are way ahead of us. And I'm very glad that we have esteemed French members of the space community here. If Germany and Europe truly wish to shape their future in space, we must invest not only in great hardware, but also in strategic thinking when it comes to both business, governments, and security affairs. Moreover, a healthy and competitive European space economy is a strategic resource for every member state. In political science, everything is about power. In physics, we care about energy. In political science, we talk about power. And with power, I mean you have to have capabilities. This is the aggregated realm. With this, you establish a social relationship with other actors. This is relational power. Morgenthau, Max Weber, and others talked about. And by that, you can establish structural power. We talk about the capabilities on the aggregated realm, but we do not talk about how to use that appropriately and how to defend against the usage of those capabilities by other nations. If we do not change this, we, I believe, risk further dependency in yet another technological arena. You know that we have a wonderful AI regulation in Europe, but we have no heavyweights in the AI realm. And dependence is the opposite of sovereignty. And this is particularly true in politics. As Kenneth Waltz observed, those who have what others need are in favored positions. Those who have what others need are in favored positions, and this is structural power. Thus, initiatives like the European Launcher Challenge, or Minister Pistorius' 35 billion space investment package that was announced recently, are important strategic steps towards such capabilities. But without academic foresight and trained minds, I believe these structures will remain incomplete. The German Space Agency, the Bundeswehr Space Command, and the Federation of German Industries, among many others, play pivotal roles in this emerging space ecosystem. In order to remain among the world's leading space powers, they need, I believe, strong academic partners capable of providing cutting-edge space technology both up and downstream, but also foresight, strategy, business ideas, and, in general, the human capital in the realm of foresight necessary to keep Europe among the leading space powers. We need to ask ourselves, how can we succeed in space as a strategic domain if we do not study it strategically? How can we build resilience if we do not train minds to anticipate disruptions? Ladies and gentlemen, space is our fifth sphere of existence, alongside land, air, sea, and the cyber realm. And in it, security and sustainability are inseparably connected. We must ensure that this domain remains sustainable, accessible, and secure for all mankind, today and tomorrow. But in doing so, we must be realistic. As the well-known political scientist John Mearsheimer reminds us, in international affairs, it is better to be Godzilla than Bambi. I believe this is true for outer space and space affairs too. However, power without purpose is as dangerous as purpose without power. Also in space, Europe needs both power and purpose. And Europe's purpose, as history has shown, often emerges only when necessity forces it to act, and when crisis transforms reflection into a resolve. I spoke with Olaf Tyler while being at the door about this. I believe we should recognize that necessity now. We are well advised to do so, before a big crisis involving space arrives. Complacency is not an option anymore. Let us therefore ensure that Europe gets the capacity to act with both strategic realism, moral responsibility, and that it has a capable technological toolkit to choose from so that outer space remains a secure realm as well as a source of fruitful cooperation, economic development, and sustainable human progress. In closing, please allow me a few words of thanks. My sincere thanks go out to all of our partners, the Sparkassen Foundation for International Dialogue, the Academy of International Affairs, the German Space Command, the ICI Institute, the Hans Seidel Foundation, the America House, the Institut Français Germany, and of course all the personal partners I've had to ensure that this event can take place and who worked in the back to ensure that everyone is attending. Your cooperation makes this event a true collective endeavor. Moreover, I'm of course not the only person who organized this event. I have a team at the CASSIS Management Office who was very, very supportive. Maximilian Schranner, Alexander Weiershäuser, and Lena Utecht. Please allow me to thank them for their professionalism and very helpful coordination. And please join me in a round of applause for my dear colleagues. As you know, the topic of space affairs lies close to my heart. So it is also a very personal pleasure for me to get the keynotes and the discussions started after the two succeeding words of greeting by both Minister Beer and Professor Ewald. I wish us all an inspiring and thought-provoking conference day, and to our workshop participants, a rewarding journey into the art of strategic foresight, because this is not a science. You will have, I believe, wonderful packed 3 days ahead of you, and I hope you enjoy them very much. Thank you all for being here again, and welcome to the Bonn Future Lab on Strategic Foresight in 2025.